The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt. Picture yourself riding a horse for the very first time. And I'm not talking about those cute pony rides at the fair where someone walks you in circles. I mean actually riding. Just you perched on top of this massive, powerful creature. You're on a narrow trail hugging the side of a steep hill. On your left, there's solid rock. On your right, a stomach-churning drop into nothingness. Then, suddenly, the path curves sharply to the left, but your horse just keeps plodding straight ahead, straight toward the edge. Your heart leaps into your throat. Every fiber of your being screams that you need to pull those reins, steer left, do something. But you freeze completely. For 5 agonizing seconds, you just sit there, every muscle locked, bracing for the nightmare of falling. And then, nothing happens. Your horse calmly turns the corner all by itself, following the familiar path like it's done this 1,000 times before. Because it has. The horse knew exactly what to do. It didn't need your panic or your guidance. Honestly, it barely registered you were even there. That strange, humbling moment when you realize you're not actually in control, when you're just a passenger on this much larger, infinitely more powerful creature with its own agenda. That right there is the single best way to understand what's happening inside your own head. In his mind-bending book, The Happiness Hypothesis, social psychologist Jonathan Haidt takes us on this fascinating tour through 10 ancient ideas about happiness and what makes life meaningful. Then he does something brilliant. He tests them against modern science, and what he uncovers will genuinely change how you see yourself. This isn't some fluffy, self-help book promising you'll be happy in 5 easy steps. It's more like discovering the instruction manual for your brain that somehow never got included in the box. Millions of people have bought Haidt's books, not because he offers comfortable lies, but because he gives us something rare and precious, an accurate map of our own minds. By the time we're done here, you'll finally understand why you sometimes sabotage yourself, why you can spot every tiny flaw in other people but somehow miss the glaring ones in yourself, and why happiness seems to slip through your fingers just when you think you've grabbed it. Even better, you'll learn what actually creates a happy and meaningful life. Spoiler alert, it's not about conquering that wild beast inside you. It's about finally understanding it and learning to work together. The secret to happiness isn't winning some internal battle. It's learning to ride. So let's dive into this fundamental split in our minds, the one that explains basically everything about why we struggle, why we get frustrated, and why we do things we swear we'd never do. Jonathan Haidt wants you to imagine your mind divided into 2 distinct parts. First, there's the rider. That's your conscious, controlled, thinking self. The part that plans ahead, sets goals, and obsesses about tomorrow. It's that voice chattering away in your head, the one you consider to be you. But here's the thing. The rider is sitting on top of the second part, the elephant. And the elephant is everything else. Your gut feelings, emotions, intuitions, habits, and instincts. It's this vast, ancient, incredibly powerful automatic system that evolution spent millions of years perfecting. The elephant feels pleasure and pain, gets scared, falls in love, wants what it wants when it wants it. And here's what changes everything. The rider isn't the boss. Sure, the rider can tug on the reins, suggest directions, make polite requests. But when that 6-ton elephant decides it wants to go somewhere else, game over. The elephant wins. Ever made a New Year's resolution to eat healthier, then found yourself demolishing a cookie a week later? That was your rider making ambitious plans, while your elephant just wanted immediate pleasure. Sworn you'd study for that test, then somehow spent an hour scrolling through social media instead? Rider versus elephant. known exactly the right thing to say in a tense conversation, but in the moment your emotions hijacked your mouth and different words came tumbling out. Yep, rider versus elephant again. This isn't some design flaw in your brain, it's actually a feature. For most of human history, the elephant was all we needed to survive. It made lightning-fast automatic decisions that kept our ancestors alive long enough to have kids. The rider, this conscious reasoning, long-term planning ability, is like a recent software update. Evolution basically plopped this tiny navigator onto the elephant's back to offer helpful suggestions. The rider can see further ahead, read maps, and learn from what happened to other people. But it absolutely cannot force the elephant to do anything the elephant doesn't want to do. The philosopher David Hume nailed it when he said reason is the slave of the passions. The rider evolved to serve the elephant, not command it. Once this metaphor clicks in your head, so many frustrating human behaviors suddenly make perfect sense. Take how our minds handle good and bad experiences. The elephant has this powerful negativity bias baked right in. Think about it from evolution's perspective. If your ancestors were wandering around the savannah, what was more critical to notice? Some tasty berries, or that rustling in the grass that might be a lion? Missing the berries means you're hungry for a while. Missing the lion means you're dead. So evolution designed the elephant to be hypersensitive to threats, dangers, and bad news. That's why one criticism can ruin your entire day, while 10 compliments barely register an hour later. Why you can have this amazing day, but one negative encounter colors everything. It's a simple rule hardwired into your psychology. Bad is stronger than good. Our minds are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. The negativity bias gets even more frustrating because of another quirk, the hedonic treadmill. We all think that achieving some big goal, getting into that dream school, landing the perfect job, making a certain amount of money, will finally make us happy. But we're completely wrong. Psychologists studied lottery winners and people who'd become paralyzed in accidents. A year after these life-altering events, both groups had mostly returned to their previous happiness levels. The lottery winner gets this amazing rush of joy, but quickly adapts to the new lifestyle. The fancy car, the big house, it all just becomes normal background scenery. They adapt. Their expectations reset, and now they're back on the treadmill, needing something even bigger to get that same thrill. The accident victim is devastated at first, but they also begin adapting. They discover new sources of joy, set different goals, and gradually their happiness climbs back toward baseline. This is the adaptation principle. We get used to almost everything. Pleasure doesn't come from having things. It comes from making progress toward goals. The elephant gets excited about the journey, not the destination. Once you arrive, the elephant gets bored and starts looking for the next adventure. For thousands of years, wise thinkers from both East and West looked at this situation and reached what seemed like an obvious conclusion. Buddha, Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, they all said basically the same thing. If chasing external things doesn't bring lasting happiness, then clearly the answer is to stop chasing. Happiness must come from within. They taught breaking your emotional attachments to people, events, and possessions. If you don't care about outcomes, you can never be disappointed. This is the ancient happiness hypothesis. Happiness comes from within and cannot be found by making the world bend to your desires. It's a powerful idea, and it's partly right. Changing your perspective is often way more effective than trying to change your circumstances. But Haidt argues this is a beautiful error, an overreaction. Yes, many external things don't bring lasting happiness, but saying nothing external matters? That ignores mountains of modern scientific evidence. Which brings us to Haidt's updated happiness formula, one of the most important ideas in the entire book. The formula is elegantly simple. H equals S plus C plus V. H is your happiness level. S is your biological set point. This is the genetic lottery you won or lost at birth. Your genes give you a natural happiness range. Some people are born with sunnier dispositions. Their elephant is naturally cheerful. Others are prone to anxiety and pessimism. This set point accounts for a huge chunk of day-to-day happiness, which is why some people seem happy anywhere, while others find ways to be miserable in paradise. But your genes aren't destiny. They just define your range. What determines where you land within that range? That's where C and V come in. C stands for the conditions of your life, things like your age, race, wealth, and marital status. The ancient wisdom was mostly right about these. Most conditions don't hugely affect long-term happiness because of that hedonic treadmill. Being rich, beautiful, or living somewhere sunny doesn't make people nearly as happy as we imagine. However, modern psychology has discovered a few conditions we never fully adapt to. These are the external things actually worth pursuing. What are they? First, noise. Especially variable, unpredictable noise. Your mind never fully tunes it out. Second, a long commute, particularly in traffic. It's a daily stress injection you never get used to. Third, lack of control. Feeling like you have control over your life is fundamental. Nursing home residents given simple choices, like which plant to care for, are happier and even live longer than those who have everything done for them. And fourth, most importantly, relationships. This one trumps almost everything else. We're ultra-social creatures. We never fully adapt to conflict with others, especially people we live or work with. A bad relationship is a constant source of misery. So the first correction to ancient wisdom is that some external conditions genuinely matter. It's wise to structure your life to get these things right. But the real key to lasting happiness is that final letter, V. V stands for voluntary activities. The things you choose to do, exercising, meditating, learning new skills, going on vacation. Unlike conditions, which are constant and fade into the background, voluntary activities are intentional. They require attention and effort. And because of this, they're the most powerful happiness tool we have. But which activities work best? Haidt, drawing on psychologists Martin Seligman and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, makes a crucial distinction between two types of enjoyment: pleasures and gratifications. Pleasures are sensory delights, a delicious meal, a warm bath, a massage. They feel wonderful, but fade quickly. If you eat an entire pint of ice cream, the first spoonful is heaven, the last is just meh. You adapt. Gratifications, though, are activities that fully engage you. They challenge you, they make you draw on your strengths and lose yourself completely. Csikszentmihalyi calls this state flow. It's what artists feel while painting, musicians while playing, athletes when they're in the zone. In flow, the rider and elephant work in perfect harmony on a challenging task. Time disappears. You're completely absorbed. Gratifications are the key to V, and the best gratifications use your signature strengths. Are you curious, kind, creative? A natural leader? The secret is finding what you're naturally good at, then weaving those strengths into your work, hobbies, and service to others. Performing an act of kindness provides a much deeper, longer-lasting happiness boost than indulging in simple pleasures. This gives us the revised happiness hypothesis. Happiness comes not just from within, but from getting your life conditions right and filling your days with voluntary activities, especially gratifications that use your strengths. But even this leaves something missing. You can get your inner world and activities perfectly aligned and still feel empty. Why? Because we're not islands. We're ultra-social, as Haidt says. Think about bees in a hive. Each bee's survival depends entirely on the hive. Haidt argues humans are part bee. Evolution shaped us not just to compete individually, but to cooperate in groups. This is where the principle of reciprocity comes in. It's the golden rule, found in virtually every culture. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Haidt calls reciprocity the basic currency of social life. It's a deep, powerful instinct. We see this beautifully in the opening scene of The Godfather. Bonacera comes to Don Corleone asking for a favor, revenge on men who beat his daughter. He tries paying with money. Corleone is insulted. He explains that if Bonacera had come in friendship, as family, the favor would have been a gift. But gifts create bonds, obligations. By accepting this gift of justice, Bonacera becomes woven into Corleone's web of reciprocity. We understand this scene instinctively because our minds are built for it. We feel gratitude when helped and desire for vengeance when hurt. These emotions are the engine of reciprocity, enforcing the tit-for-tat strategy that lets us build trust and cooperate. And what's the primary tool for enforcing reciprocity in large groups? Gossip. We usually think of gossip as petty and negative. But evolutionarily, gossip is miraculous. It lets us track who's trustworthy and who's a cheater. It's social policing. Gossip, paired with reciprocity instincts, makes karma work here on Earth. What goes around comes around, because everyone's talking about what you did. If we're so perfectly designed for social life, why are we constantly in conflict? Why so judgmental and self-righteous? Back to our divided self. The writer, our inner lawyer, is brilliant at one thing: justifying whatever the elephant wants to believe. We're all natural-born hypocrites, Haidt says. Masters at seeing tiny specks in our neighbor's eye while remaining blind to the massive log in our own. Psychologists call this naive realism, the belief that I see the world as it truly is. Anyone who disagrees must be biased, stupid, or evil. We judge others by their actions, but ourselves by our intentions. Someone cuts us off in traffic, they're a jerk. We cut someone off, we're in a hurry and didn't see them. Our inner lawyer spins stories where we're the innocent hero and the other person's the villain. This leads to what psychologist Roy Baumeister calls the myth of pure evil. We love believing evil is external, that villains are purely malevolent and victims purely innocent. It simplifies the world into good versus evil, with us firmly on the angel's side. This tendency fuels so much human conflict, from marital fights to wars. Both sides utterly convinced of their righteousness. The great sages warned us about this. First take the log out of your own eye, Jesus said. Then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. Acknowledging our hypocrisy is the first step toward compassion and understanding. So we've got a happiness formula, H equals S plus C plus V, and an understanding of our social nature. But there's still one final piece. What about purpose? The feeling that our life means something? This is where Haidt introduces his most mind-bending idea, a third dimension of human experience. Most of our lives, we operate in two dimensions. There's the horizontal dimension of closeness, friends and family on one side, strangers and enemies on the other, and the vertical dimension of hierarchy, people above and below us in status. But what happens when you witness unexpected kindness, courage, or compassion? When you see someone perform an act of moral beauty, you feel something. a warm, expansive feeling in your chest, a sense of being uplifted. Haidt calls this emotion elevation. It's disgust's opposite. It makes you want to be better, connect with others, love more. And when you stand before something vast and overwhelming, the Grand Canyon at sunset, or a star-filled sky on a clear night, you feel awe. Awe is what we experience, encountering something so vast we can't easily process it with our existing mental frameworks. It makes our sense of self feel small and insignificant. Elevation and awe are doorways to this third dimension, which Haidt calls the dimension of divinity or sacredness. He's not necessarily talking about God. He means a fundamental human capacity to experience life as having sacred dimensions. The feeling that some things are noble, others degrading. That your life is part of something much, much bigger than yourself. When we lose our sense of self even momentarily, we connect with this larger whole. This is the core of mystical experience across religions. The feeling of being, as one writer put it, dissolved into something complete and great. This brings us to the final, most profound version of the happiness hypothesis. Happiness isn't something you find, acquire, or achieve directly. It's not something you get by looking inside yourself or chasing external goals. The ultimate truth? Happiness comes from between. It comes from the relationship between you and others, between you and your work, between you and something larger than yourself. Purpose in life comes from achieving what Haidt calls cross-level coherence. It's when different levels of your existence, physical, psychological, and socio-cultural, all align. When your personal goals harmonize with your relationships and values. When your rider and elephant ride in the same direction, toward a destination you both find meaningful. Think of a plant. You can't make it grow. You can't command it to be happy. All you can do is get the conditions right. Proper soil, right amount of sun and water, get the relationships right, and the plant flourishes on its own. We're the same. Get the relationships right in your life, and purpose and meaning emerge naturally. Love and work are the sun and water of a meaningful life. And finding connection to something larger than yourself, religion, nature, science, or humanity, is the soil where that life takes root and grows. That's the grand synthesis of Jonathan Haidt's work. A journey, starting with a simple metaphor of rider and elephant, ends with profound understanding of what it means to live a complete, fully human life. Stepping back from the grand tapestry Jonathan Haidt weaves in the happiness hypothesis, what stands out most is its profound balance. It's a book that refuses simple answers because life isn't simple. Instead, it offers a framework for thinking, a way to hold opposing truths in your mind simultaneously. The rider and elephant metaphor is, in my view, one of psychology's most powerful tools ever created. It's not just a clever analogy, it's a key to self-compassion. You've probably spent years beating yourself up for lacking willpower, for procrastinating, for saying the wrong thing. But once you understand your rider is just a tiny advisor on a giant emotional elephant's back, you can stop the blame game. You see, the challenge isn't mind over matter. It's learning to understand, train, and cooperate with a powerful creature with its own wisdom. The goal isn't conquering the elephant, but befriending it. The book also masterfully balances ancient wisdom with modern science. It shows deep respect for profound psychological insights from figures like Buddha, Jesus, and the Stoics, but doesn't accept their teachings on faith alone. It puts them under empirical research's microscope, keeping what works and gently setting aside what doesn't. This approach gives us both worlds, millennia-old traditions, depth, and 21st century psychology's rigor. Finally, it finds balance between Eastern acceptance, and Western striving. Happiness isn't purely an inside job, nor is it a prize won by conquering the external world. It's a delicate dance between changing yourself and changing your world, knowing when to let go and when to lean in. So how can you start applying these ideas to your own life right now? It can feel overwhelming, so let's make it simple. Here are 3 small actions for this week. First, become an observer of your own mind. For one day, try noticing the rider and elephant in action. When you feel sudden urges, anger pangs, or anxiety waves, that's the elephant. When you hear that little voice trying to reason, plan, or make excuses, that's the rider. Don't try changing anything. Don't judge. Just watch. This simple observation is the first step toward building a better working relationship between them. Second, find one gratification. Look up signature strengths online. There are free tests. Identify one of your top strengths, maybe curiosity, kindness, or love of learning. Then this week, intentionally plan one activity using that strength. If it's curiosity, visit a museum or watch a documentary on something completely new to you. If it's kindness, do an unasked favor for a friend. Notice how this feels. Notice how the feeling differs from simple pleasures like eating cake, perhaps deeper and more lasting. Third, look for the between. Think about one important relationship in your life, with a person, a hobby, or your work. Ask yourself, how can I strengthen this connection? The answer to a meaningful life isn't some cosmic secret on a mountaintop. It's right here, in the quality of connections you nurture every day. That was a summary of The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt. We've touched on the major landmarks of his incredible intellectual journey, but I have to be honest, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you travel the territory yourself. This book's true power lies in quiet moments of reflection it provokes, when a specific story or single sentence resonates with your own life in unexpected ways. This summary is your map, designed to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've talked about has sparked your curiosity, I urge you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning facts. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself, your relationships, and your place in the world. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring ideas that have shaped the world's most successful and thoughtful people, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and keep growing together.